it's really interesting because when you say if we sneeze in the United States, England gets a cold, the reason I'm really here is because we have this phenomenal partnership with the Institute and LACA. And we have done so much learning over the last 3 or 4 years of what you're doing here throughout the entire UK, and then we're exchanging that knowledge back with the United States in our school meals programs as well. I actually ran a school meals program in the United States for about 25 years. I was a school nutrition director over a district, and then was asked to come down to the National Food Service Management Institute to run the program. And the Institute is a federally funded program. We are fully funded by the United States government to simply lend training, technical assistance, and research in child nutrition programs. So we go all over the United States and the US territories, and we provide training, we do best practices research, and it's all absolutely free of charge to anybody that's involved in child care or school feeding. And so it's a really nice service that we provide throughout the United States, but we really do see the differences that are created because of the size in which we're trying to operate. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about what's going on in the United States. Some of you probably have seen some of the headlines. We have really worked hard in the United States for both universal meals, and I wish they'd hurry up because I'm getting old, and I said I won't quit till I see that happen. But it's better hurry up fairly soon because I'm getting to the point where I'm looking at retirement and sitting on a beach somewhere. Because it seems like every time I turn around, there's another battle. And the issue for me is, what's the battle about? It's about feeding children. And I get so frustrated and so angry, and so when I come here, it's so wonderful to hear that we all serve in the same issues. We're all dealing with some of the same kinds of things. We have legislators that say to us, well, I ate toast and crumpets on my way to school and I'm fine. I drank fizzy drinks all my life, I'm fine. And so we have the same kinds of issues going on in the United States as to how do we get people to really understand that it's a basic necessity to feed children in school. That's why we started the program in the United States. Because children that were, or it wasn't even children, it was young men being drafted into World War II, came out of the Great Depression of the United States, and they were so malnourished, they couldn't serve. And that's where our national program came from. And yet, going all the way back to the early 1800s, and at the Institute, we actually house the history of school feeding in the United States. We have the archives there. And back to the early 1800s, there were school teachers that were starting to feed kids in their classroom, because they knew that's how kids learned. They knew they did much better if they had some nourishment. So what do we do but come together? And I think this is wonderful that there's an international partnership. Because could you imagine if we really came together as one, as people that are interested in school feeding and taking care of kids, and we told everybody worldwide that that's what needs to be done. And we're actually working on that with the Global Child Nutrition Foundation. It's a sister organization for the School Nutrition Association, which is our LACA. And the Global Child Nutrition Foundation, we go all over the world. We're headed to Johannesburg, Africa in September. And we teach governments how to provide food in schools. We don't give them money. We don't give them food. We just teach them how to write policy and how to provide food in schools. So coming together is a great, working together in a changing landscape is a great topic for all of us to talk about worldwide, because we're all in this same situation with children. So our commitment at the Institute, which you already heard, is to provide support and for continuous improvement in child nutrition programs. I love the position I'm in because I can go into schools and I'm very neutral. I'm not there to inspect them. I'm not there to criticize them. We're simply there to help them get rolling and get back on board with meeting our nutrition standards in the United States, and so that they are in compliance with all of our regulations. So it's been a really great position, although politically I can't do as much lobbying as I'd like to, because, well, I'll tell you a little bit about some of the controversy in the United States right now. If I was in a school district, I would be screaming in a legislator's office because they're going in the wrong direction right now with some of the conversations that they're having. And so in my position in the Institute, I don't get to do that as often as I'd like. One of the things that came with the every 5 years, we're reauthorized by Congress. So that's how we get our money. We get our money for a per meal reimbursement rate. So every single day in the United States, as a director, I have to track which child eats free, which child eats at a reduced price, and which child eats at a full price meal. And I have to track that every single day, and then once a month, I turn that paperwork into the government, and I get a per meal reimbursement back every single day based on the meals that I've served. And so every 5 years, this money is reauthorized by Congress. And in 2010, we reauthorized with the Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act. And it was a great reauthorization because it had a lot of new nutrition standards in it. It also had this, which is called professional standards for school nutrition employees. One of the things that I've had through my entire career is a very strong frustration in the United States that in some states, you don't need any education whatsoever to run these programs. None. In the state that I come from, the state of Wisconsin, you don't even need to have a high school equivalent education to be in charge of the entire federal program. Now, I don't know, you can write as many standards as you want, you can write all the great menus you want, but if you have no skills and have no knowledge of food service or nutrition, I don't know how you run a program. And so I think we sort of put the cart before the horse, and we came up with a lot of nutrition standards because we said things have to improve in our school nutrition programs. But then at the end, we finally got this passed, and that is that there's a requirement, finally, for professional standards and professional development. So everybody involved in school nutrition will have to have some kind of basic education, basic training every year in school nutrition. And I think that's the first step in making a program work, and that people are well trained and have the knowledge that they need. So this is just a very brief, I didn't put this because of time. I have the document with me. You can go on the USDA.gov website and find this. But the new directors, every new director finally is going to have 8 hours of food safety training. Now, I wanted more than that when I was pushing for professional standards, but right now I'll take what I can get. And so at least 8 hours. When I talk to what we call superintendents, your head teachers, and I go to their national conference, and I say to them, okay, how many of you have trained your teachers or have training for teachers every year? And oh, they love to raise their hand. They're so excited. Of course we train our teachers. Well, how many of you have new technology in your schools? Oh, of course we do. How many of you have new facilities that you're building and winning money through your communities to get facilities? Of course we do. How many of you have food service employees that have food safety knowledge? And they look at me and their jaw drops. Well, why would we do that? They're just cooks. Just cooks. They have impact of your entire community. Infants, school-age children in our country, we feed the elderly through our school nutrition programs. We might have community events through the school nutrition program. And why wouldn't you want every single person walking in that building to have some idea that you can't put raw chicken in with the salad? Let's think about that. And that they sort of drop their jaw. But so we've got at least this minimal training now that they have to have, that 8 hours of food safety training for new directors. The rest of the training is divided up depending upon what size district you have. And so at that middle level, 2,500 to 9,999 students, you're going to have a bachelor's degree, which we're very excited about. It means you have to go to school and learn about food service or nutrition. And as you go up, you have to have more education as you go up throughout the size of your district and the complexities that you run in your program. Now, some states already require this. It's a state by state. You heard it's 50 different countries. He's right. It's 50 different countries. The states run their own programs in their state. And so some states already have this, but now we had to legislate it so that all states, like the one I come from, make sure that everyone has this. And then there will be an annual continuing education that people have to have as well, which we're very excited about at the Institute because it's good job security for us, that they're going to have training throughout the year in the school nutrition program, no matter what level that they're at. And so some of the facts in school meals, I'm talking only about lunch here because of the shortness of the time, but like I said, we have 3 different categories in the United States, and this is the money that we get. So for every child that I feed free of charge, I get about £1.76. And so I don't know if I wrote that exactly right in English terms, but it's $2.99 for me from the federal government. And I only get that when I serve the child. Remember, we get the money after the fact, not before. And so every month I turn in my monthly numbers, and then I'll get a check issued to my school district. And then we also have the National School Breakfast Program where we get a per meal reimbursement for breakfast as well. In some cases, the state will kick in a little bit of money as well. And in Wisconsin, where I was a school nutrition director, we did get a little money from the state of Wisconsin for every lunch we served. And so that helped it as well. But that's the per meal reimbursement. In most cases in the United States, you have to pay for all your labor. You have to pay for all your food. You pay for all your electricity, your garbage hauling, cleaning of your cafeteria, equipment maintenance. That all comes out of that $2.99 for that free meal. And so sometimes that gets a little tight in some districts. So our lunch pattern, we've always had a pattern in the United States. It still is. We have 5 components. These are the components that we are required to serve. We have a system in the United States called offer versus serve, and that is that students can choose 3 out of those 5 components. And that makes it a reimbursable meal so that I can get that money from the federal government. Those students have to have 3 out of the 5 on their tray if I have offer versus serve in my district. Secondary schools are required to have offer versus serve, so the students have the option of turning down 2. Primary schools, it's only if you choose to do that. You can put all 5 on the tray. We encourage people not to, only because of cost savings. But those are the things that we have to serve. Now the issue is that you have to serve them in an exact portion size. So if it's for primary schools, if it's a 1-ounce portion of protein, it must be a 1-ounce portion. If a child takes half, that doesn't count. So you'd have to have 3 other items on that tray in order to get that reimbursement. So it becomes very complex. Fruits and vegetables, they have to have up to a half a cup. So your serving utensil is a half a cup. The person at the end of the line that's looking at that meal has to be able to visualize and say, is that a half a cup? If it's not, the student has to have more on their tray, or I won't get that federal reimbursement for the day. And so that's where some of the issues come in with some of the things that are going on. If you've heard in the news, what are some of the controversies that are going on in the United States? We have never, ever been at this point in school meals sort of engaged in a negative way with our U.S. Department of Agriculture and the White House itself. We have a First Lady that is very supportive of healthy meals. She has a Let's Move campaign. She kicked this off. We were so excited because she really put school meals at the top of the platform. And she put a lot of value into school meals and how important it is that we serve kids healthy foods and expose them to healthy foods. And the United States Department of Agriculture that oversees our program was extremely supportive of this. But like anything else, there were some regulations that came with it. And we got an extra 6 cents a meal if we met the new nutrition standards and the new meal pattern. And for some, and I'm very sorry to say, even in the School Nutrition Association, the association that was near and dear to my heart, I was president a number of years ago. The School Nutrition Association has stepped out against some of the standards. And it has caused this incredible controversy in the United States right now. And we're very, very nervous that legislatively, legislators got involved, and you know what happens when legislators get involved. Everybody thinks they know about nutrition because they eat. And so they get involved, and they're going to please their constituency. It's a huge election year in the United States for us. And so now they've proposed that they would put a waiver out, that they would pass a law to allow people to have a waiver so that they wouldn't have to meet all of the standards. But they'd have to prove that they were losing money for 6 months before they got a waiver. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't want anybody to prove that I'm losing money for 6 months. I would be a bit embarrassed. The other thing is what's 6 months? What are you going to do in 6 months if you haven't already come up to the plate and haven't already done what needs to be done? And I think that we heard today a number of times, and we've heard a little bit yesterday as well, that these kinds of things are challenging. And this is some of the things that we're learning from England, is that they're challenging. You did this before we did. And it's been a challenge. But you keep going forward. You don't go backwards. You don't do waivers. You keep moving forward and trying to fix things, trying to manipulate and to sort of massage things so that it's easier to do. Now, we know kids don't accept things right away. We know that it's a challenge to get children to accept food when they haven't ever seen it before. And so we have to give this time in the United States. But some of the things that are under controversy are the whole issue of whole grain rich. You must have 100% whole grain rich products in the program starting this fall. And that means 50% of it is made with whole grain, and the remaining grain is whole grain rich, and it's enriched. And we're finding some issues with that as far as acceptable products are concerned. Pasta in particular is a little bit more difficult to deal with, and students aren't as accepting. Students also must take a half a cup of fruit or vegetable. That's part of the new standard. You must have that. I talked about offer versus serve. Well, we call it offer versus serve with a twist now, because they must have at least a minimum of a half a cup of fruit or vegetable or combination of the two on their tray to get that federal reimbursement. And there's been a bit of an uproar, and not everybody, and that's what's so frustrating in the United States right now, because there's so many people that are doing so well and running really, really good programs, and they're doing this. And they're getting kids to take fruits and vegetables, and they're working on the marketing of it. And then there's the contingency that's saying, no, we can't do this. Well, one of the messages I always gave in the United States with school nutrition employees is never, ever tell the general public you can't do it. Because you will have the famous chefs and everybody and their brother that will say they can. And it's too bad that you can't, because we'll step in and do it for you. And that's exactly what's happening right now. We have this controversy going on, and everybody that ever called themselves a chef is saying, well, we can do that. We'll show you how to do that. And the school nutrition employees who have put a lot of energy and time and dedication into the program are losing ground very fast. Because it is part of marketing, and it is part of our job. When I was in the school nutrition program, I had neighbors that would sell fizzy drinks in their school nutrition program, and I was always adamantly against that. And they said, well, Katie, if I don't sell it, the gas station down where you get your fuel will sell it to them if I don't sell it, so I may as well make the money. Well, my point is that we are in an education business, and it's not our job to sell fizzy drinks. It's our job to educate students about good nutrition. And so these kinds of things have become very controversial right now in the United States, and we're at a very serious breaking point. If this legislation goes through to do these waivers, we're really afraid that it's legislation in 2015 that may break the program and the federal reimbursement rates that we get now. And we really don't want to go back that way, but that's the situation that we're in right now with our association. This is the other thing that people are talking about, is this whole sodium issue. It's time for us to start looking at sodium in the United States and start reducing what we're doing. We have vendors that have come up with phenomenal products that are really good and tasty, that have reduced the sodium, and yet people are saying, oh, nobody will eat it if it's reduced in sodium. Again, it's going to take some time, and this is the first step, this is the first level that we're supposed to be getting at. What's nice about the United States is that it's a week-long average. So you don't do it per day. We don't have to meet these different requirements per day or these standards per day. We average it over the course of a week. So one day if you're a little higher, it's okay, because the next day you're a little lower. And so we average everything over the course of the week to make sure that we're meeting our standards. But these are the sodium standards that they've asked us to put in place for next fall. So part of it is balancing the priorities in school nutrition programs. What is it we really want to do? What is it we're really about? And so we have to keep looking at that and wondering, are we really about nutrition? Or are we supposed to be making money for the school district, which kind of happens sometimes in some of our districts? So what is it we're really all about? And in the United States, we're required to balance our budget. In the past, we used to be able to get some money from the General School Education Fund if we lost a little money, or if we ran a little short. And in the last 10 years, that's changed, because education is squeezed for dollars. And so now it's really important that we balance our budget, and in some cases, schools are looking for us to make money so that they can put money into their budgets as well. And so that becomes sort of the struggle that you get into in school nutrition and balancing the budget. We do have something called community eligibility now. You talk about universal meals. We really have been trying to get to universal meals. It seems to be a political battlefield. But this year, starting this fall, we have what we call community eligibility, which is the first wonderful step forward to feeding all children in our communities. And that means that depending on what your community income level is, so they take the income level of the census of the entire community, and if it meets a certain level, everybody in that school gets to eat free. and you get a community eligibility, which is universal free meals, both breakfast and lunch, in the school program, which we think is going to be a huge increase in uptake. And we also think that it's going to get rid of that stigma of you're rich, I'm poor, that whole issue that still goes on, even though we try to avoid it in the school system. So we're very excited to watch this happen, but we're right now in the exact same position you are, only it's K through 12. It's every child in the district from kindergarten all the way up to age 18 is going to be able to get a free meal if the community is eligible for community eligibility, which we're very excited about at this time. Something else we have in the new regulation, and I'll speed this up a little bit, I know you're looking for lunch, is that we have another rule that's called Smart Snacks that's going to start in this fall. In many of our programs, we sell food outside of the reimbursable meal. So all sorts of snacks. We call it the a la carte program. It might even be hot entrees, where a student can come and just buy an entree, or they can buy just a bag of crisps, or they can buy a milk, something. We call it a la carte. And there's a whole variety of food that we sell in our schools. And in many cases, most of us started those programs to help fund the reimbursable meal program, to help subsidize those programs, to keep our meal prices low. We know that the full-paying child many times is the child that falls through the cracks, and parents can barely afford it. They don't qualify for any reduction in price, and the more we increase that lunch price, the more those children fall off the radar screen and can no longer afford school meals. So to keep that meal price low, we try to sell other products and then put that back into the school meals program. What's happened now with our new rules is that now there are nutrition standards for those smart snacks as well, and for those a la carte items. And it also includes every single person selling any kind of food in the school building during the school day. So it's all the clubs, all the fundraisers, it includes everything that is sold to students during the school day. And so this is just very briefly some of the rules and regulations that are put in to the schools. There are some loopholes though. It says that they have to be sold. So now we have head teachers saying, well, look, we're going to sell tickets first, and then the food is worth so many tickets. So we really sold them a ticket, not the food. Well, you know what? We're not going to let that fly. That doesn't work. And then it also states that there can be infrequent fundraisers, and each state in the country gets to decide what does infrequent mean. Well, you and I both know that every single club that wants to sell something is going to be infrequent. And so those are some of the loopholes we're still working at. But here quickly are some of the things the Smart Stack standards are. I'm not going to read that to you. You can read. I also have I have it in print, and you can also go online and see it. But as you can see, what we're trying to do is say snacking is a reasonable part of a school day, but these snacks also need to have some nutrition standards set to them so that we're not selling candy and sweets to students all day long. And so if they want to sell things in fundraising, they have to go through these kinds of standards, and all food sold, no matter who's selling it, has to meet these kinds of standards. Some of the other things that have come up is beverage standards, 100% juice water blends, unflavored, low-fat, or flavored fat-free. Water, it is also required now that in every school cafeteria, we must have free, accessible water to students. If you don't have water fountains in your cafeteria, because we took many of those out when students decided to spit in them and put gum in them and everything else. But now the government regulation says you must have free water accessible. So many school nutrition programs had to buy the containers with the spigots to offer free water to students as well. But then anything that you sell, you can sell any kinds of water that you want. And then we put some limit to sizes. Now we know students only can consume so much food, and so we really don't see that a 20-ounce bottle of anything is good for a student in the primary school. I really have an issue with fruit juice as well. I get a little frustrated because my fizzy drink has as many calories as a same bottle of apple juice. So I get a little frustrated sometimes when we talk about fruit juices because of the issue of calories and sugar, but we're only going there little by little. As you can see, diet carbonated beverages and diet sport drinks have been allowed in the high schools, in the secondary schools, which in the school nutrition arena we're not too excited about either, because you say to a child, you can drink a diet Coke, but you can't drink this. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Again, we're there to educate students, and we're there to give them good, healthy choices so that they learn good, healthy living styles. Some of the things, though, that are going on that really are inspiring in the United States, because we have all these regulations, we've been Given all this in a very short period of time, I think it's time. It's too bad we have to regulate, but I also just spent 2 weeks with Lindsey Graham from Scotland, who we traveled around the United States in the last 2 weeks visiting summer feeding programs. In the United States, we also have a federally funded program. We literally take buses to street corners, and kids come on the school bus, eat a school meal during the summer. We get reimbursed for that, no questions asked, infant through age 18. And so we looked at summer feeding programs. Now, the summer feeding programs have a meal pattern, but they don't necessarily have specific nutrition standards as stringent as our lunch pattern is, or our breakfast pattern. And some of the food we saw in the summertime wasn't the best quality food. And so it really brings me, once again, all the way around full cycle. It's too bad we have to legislate it, but we do. Because not everybody believes in the high quality food. Some people believe in making money over quality of food. Other people are very embraced in quality of food and giving kids the best quality. But there are a lot of organizations that are really helping us. SmarterLunchrooms.org, I would really encourage you to go on that website. It's from Cornell University. It's phenomenal at what they're doing. Dr. Brian Weinsink, he developed the 100-calorie snack pack. He's the head of this research. And all it is the way you arrange your food on your serving line. And the research he has done is so exciting. So instead of taking chocolate milk away from children, you put it the furthest behind. And the easiest access to milk is the low-fat white milk. And the chocolate milk is there. We haven't taken it away, so they can't have their rebellion and their boycott of your program. It's just more difficult to get to. And what he's finding is that students are choosing the low-fat white milk. And then he takes the fruit and he puts it in a beautiful bowl up front. So that's the first thing you put on your plate. The first thing you put on your tray are fruits and vegetables. And children are choosing those things without rebellion because it's just easy. And so he did the psychology of young people and put it into how easy is it to put it on my plate or my tray. And it's phenomenal what they're coming up with. Crazy names for food. The bean burrito is a much higher seller when it's called some crazy name that the kids are recognizing, rather than a bean burrito. Don't call it a bean burrito, call it something else. Mr. Muscle burrito, and the kids take it. So this is a phenomenal website, and I really encourage you to go on there and see some of the research they're doing and the ideas that they have. HealthierGeneration.org, that's a Clinton Foundation, also has some wonderful resources on how to encourage kids to take fruits and vegetables. What's the psychology behind that? How to turn campuses and even school staff into really healthy environments for children. But lots of free resources there. This new one is the Safe Food. The United States government gave a huge grant to Kansas State University, and all they do is research in food safety in school nutrition programs. That's it. That's their sole purpose. Some of the research they're coming up with is phenomenal as far as how to keep food safe in a school environment. When you put it into a cooler to cool it down or a refrigerator to cool it down, are you ruining the rest of the food in that refrigerator? You'll be surprised. I thought I knew a lot about food safety. I didn't know anything when I started looking at their research. So all free research for you to access. And of course, the United States Department of Agriculture has a Healthier U.S. School Challenge website. And this is a national recognition that the United States Department of Agriculture puts on. What I love about this recognition is that you get a government official that comes to recognize your school. The school nutrition program has a very strong part. The physical education program has to have a strong part because they have to have so many minutes of unstructured phy-ed or movement during the day. And nutrition education is also a part of this, that there has to be nutrition education going on in various curriculums in various areas of the school. So it's a total school wellness, a total school partnership that come together. And you can get a bronze, silver, gold, or gold with distinction award. It's a big to-do, big PR for your school district. And then the federal government gives you money for the school nutrition program based on what level that you access and what level that you achieve. And you can continue to go up the levels as you choose, and the government will give you extra money for your program for achieving these levels. So it's a great program, and we're really excited about it in the United States because it really gives really super positive PR to the schools that do it. I just talked to a district director who has 50-some schools, and she had about 38 of them get really excited and join on and do this, and she thought, fine, the other schools in her district weren't real interested, the head teachers weren't too interested in getting involved, until the USDA government officials showed up in their community to hand out the awards. And then the other head teachers were like, wait a minute, what about my school? How come I didn't get one? Well, you didn't cooperate. You didn't get it going in your school district. So peer pressure alone got those schools engaged in this. But it's not just the school nutrition program, it's everybody for all whole school wellness that's important here. This is the fabulous building I work in every day. I would highly encourage any of you, if you're ever in the South, if you go to Memphis, Tennessee, I'm only an hour away. This is our training facility. We do have training teams all over the country, though. I have over 400 consultants around the country that do training for us, for all the school nutrition programs around the country. But this is the facility that we operate out of on the campus of the University of Mississippi. And so we have a wonderful training facility here, and I would invite any one of you, if you're ever in Memphis, Tennessee, where Elvis is, to talk to me, call me, and come down and give us a visit. Let me just quickly close by telling you a little bit about us. We are a federally funded national center, the only federally funded center in the country that does this just for school nutrition and childcare. And it is absolutely no cost to any participant. So we even pay sometimes the cost for them to travel to various locations to come and participate in the training. Some of our resources are there. Everything is online. You had a pamphlet in your registration bag about the Institute. Everything in the Institute is online and free to the general public. We have over 46 online training courses right now. You can go online yourself, you can create a profile, you can take those courses, get a certificate of completion, and you won't ever be charged a penny. It's open to the general public because it's all federally funded. Any of the resources online that we have, any of the videos, any of the worksheets, training programs, you're free to download and use at your will, as long as you don't charge for them. And so that's a very quick synopsis to hopefully get you a little bit on board of what's going on in the United States. We have some of the same challenges you have, but we have people that are as passionate as you are. I'm going tomorrow to fly back to our national conference, which is in Boston this year, and it'll be interesting because the tension is high. When the School Nutrition Association has said, wait, we want a waiver, we can't do this, I'm a past president, and 19 of the past presidents of our national association signed a letter that told the government officials, don't go backwards. Stay moving forward. Is this a challenge? Is it difficult? Yes. But do our children need it? Yes. You heard that we have some of the most obese people in the world in the United States of America. It's appalling when you see small children that can't even ride a small bicycle. And we know in the United States they're saying that this is the generation that there will be children that pass away prior to their parents. First generation ever that will pass away prior to their parents, and it's based on the issues that are caused by obesity. We must do something in our school nutrition programs. We have fabulous programs nationwide, fabulous programs. But we have to keep moving forward and ensuring that we're educating kids about good nutrition and healthy lifestyles. And I appreciate being here and learning from you and what you are all doing as well. And I appreciate the fact that we're all in this together because really and truly, I truly believe the world depends on us, not just our own countries, but the entire world.